Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 12. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, car tools, where to start.
All right, guys, welcome back. I always ask Dave how his week was, so I guess I'll just keep doing that.
Dave's got the most to talk about.
Yeah, he normally does. What's up?
I got stuff rattling around in my brain.
There you go.
It's a constant stream of thoughts and consciousness and ideas. But I did have a question for you guys. A while back, y'all turned me on to, are they called work tunes?
Yeah.
Work jams?
Yeah, did you get some?
3M
I did.
work tunes.
I did get some. They're fantastic for the listeners out there. These are hearing protection made by 3M, but they have a radio tuner in them. The ones that I have Bluetooth, which I shouldn't have bought that because I never use it. So I just use the radio.
You never use Bluetooth?
I only use the Bluetooth.
So I got them because I'll cut my grass on Saturdays or Sundays, and I'll listen to a Braves game or a Georgia game or whatever.
There you go.
So I use the radio tuner. But the problem that I have with them, they're not tall enough, and they just straight up slice into the top of my head.
Really? Do you know how to adjust them?
I do know how to adjust them, and
sure.
I've worked on it. So I'm just curious if you guys have had the same issue.
No, I have a small head.
Okay, I have a pretty big head.
I don't have that issue.
I'm a large cranium guy, but not an issue.
I think I have a large head in a weird way. So I have a motorcycle, and when I bought the motorcycle, got a helmet, I had a really tough time finding a helmet that would fit. I have what you would call an extreme long oval head.
Or high crown.
Well, Dave's deep front to back.
Yeah, when you look at me straight on, I look normal. But then when I turn to the side, it's like, whoa.
All right, Josh, what about you?
Yeah, the only thing interesting this week, and I shot you guys a text photo of it, harkening back to episode 10 when Dave talked about things that grind his gears. One being handcrafted things.
Yes.
I got went to the mailbox, opened up my mail, and I get this sweet offer from my mortgage company for a handcrafted mortgage.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to be looking into that.
What are we doing?
Somebody took their time to craft this mortgage.
They're going to handcraft you a mortgage,
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah.
How can you say no to that?
No, I'm not.
To clarify, when I said handcrafted iced coffee, it's handcrafted lattes that Dunkin' Donuts is putting out. So Dunkin' Donuts, don't be mad about me. Your free press that I put out there.
Dunkin'.
Yeah, sorry, Dunkin'.
I want to know how much they paid that marketing agency.
Yeah, really.
Not very much because it's a played out idea. Everybody's doing it. It's a terrible idea. Nothing's handcrafted. It's stupid.
Yeah, unless you're buying a axe from Switzerland or wherever.
It's not Switzerland. It's Sweden.
Okay.
And it's a fantastic axe.
All right. I think that's about it.
Well, as usual, I don't have much to say. I do have the kids all this week. My wife's out of town on business, and so
You're just getting a taste of what it's like to.
Yeah, I feel for you single parents out there. I mean, it's been a struggle.
It's a grind.
Not a joke.
But it actually hasn't been terrible, but it has made me super thankful to have my wife here.
Absolutely.
Word. You hear that,
Totally.
wives?
Yes,
We're
we love you,
super
wives.
The
You
top
hear that?
3 wives, all tied for first
Yes.
on planet Earth.
Yep.
And also, I did want to mention, too, so our last episode, we did Ask Us Anything, and we did leave off some questions. So we didn't get to your question, talking about you, Chase, and
Jim.
Matt. Yeah, and Jim.
Yep.
Yes. So we will get to those questions.
Keep them
Just
coming.
Hold your horses.
That's right. Keep them coming. All right. So we'll get into the topic here at hand, which is car tools, where to start. So similar to what we did a few episodes back, it was one of our first episodes, right?
I think it was episode 2.
All right. And I've talked to a bunch of folks out on the streets that come up and say, hey, man, that toolkit episode you guys did was spot on.
Jam up.
We enjoyed it. So we're going to do this. We're going to have a little automotive focus. So
This is a starter automotive toolkit,
this
correct?
is starter, where to start. So this isn't like you're building out your garage because you just wrench all the time, every weekend, all day. This is you occasionally would like to work on your car, and these are the tools you need to do that.
All right, what's our 2 non-negotiables? Gotta have these.
Yeah, so we agreed beforehand on 2 definites that everyone needs related to your car, and then we're going to go around the table and add our own picks for this toolkit, and we'll just see how far it goes building our own here. So number one was a socket wrench set, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So number one, socket wrench set, and specifically with deep well sockets. So
Okay. We did say that.
yeah, that was specified. When you're working on cars, just all different types of bolts, different places you have to get into.
So we're saying deep well as a bonus. So we got the normal ones. Now we got standard and metric.
Got to get standard and metric.
Standard set, not an exhaustive set that's got, all the way up to 27 millimeter or something like that. But then all those same sizes in deep well as well.
Yep. So metric and standard.
As well. Deep well as well.
Deep well, metric and standard. Just, I know we've got different experience of listeners. So our listeners have different understanding of tools. If you don't know what a socket wrench is, it's the one where when you're tightening a bolt, it makes the clicky sound.
It makes the cool sound.
When you're not clicking, when you're not tightening.
Josh is doing hand motions right
so
now.
when you're moving the handle back and forth in one direction, it makes
ratchets.
a clicky sound, which is a ratchet. You tighten it on the way down. That's the first one. That one's a must-have. Pretty much get that out every time you pop the hood.
You pretty much cannot do any job on a car without, I would say.
It's safe to most jobs.
Yeah, you need
Most jobs.
you need a socket set.
All right, number two. The number two was a set of wrenches, and these wrenches are going to have a closed end on one side, so like a hole that fits different size bolts on one end, and then on the opposite end, it's going to have an open end so that you can fit the same size bolts.
Yes.
So these are going to have wrenches with two ends, circle on one end, kind of an open crescent on the other.
And you may be thinking, why do I need that when I got the socket set? Well, there's a lot of areas that you can't fit a ratchet in, and you need the wrench.
Yeah, this is good for tight spaces, and you can carry those around a little easier typically. They're a little lighter, so easy to kind of throw in your bag, take them where you need them.
And these tools, they they double for both toolkits, right? Like you use a set of wrenches and sockets for a lot of different things. So I don't remember everything that was on our list for the starter toolkit, but
Well, we ruled out socket set because we determined that wasn't something that
I'm going to throw back in there. You need a socket set.
Well, we said that was only for
the
like inside
starter.
the home, right? So
Yep.
that was a basic like homeowner toolkit.
Okay.
So we determined that you don't really need the socket set for inside the home.
For a starter toolkit.
For a starter
Yeah.
toolkit.
Okay.
Any experienced home owner, DIY person / automotive person, you're going to have socket set.
For sure.
All right, and some of our choices that we picked down the road here may actually be duplicates of things that were on the homeowner's toolkit. So
Not mine.
we'll get there. All right,
All right. Who's going to go first?
let's go with Dave.
Dave.
All right, so I ordered my list not necessarily in terms of most important number one. I ordered them, and my number one is one that I know that you guys are going to have. So I wanted to get all mine out of the way before you guys stole mine. It's
Okay.
kind of the idea.
We're just going one at a time then.
I understand that. Okay, so number one, floor jack. There's
Yep.
no way you guys don't have that on your list.
I had it.
Floor jack's on my list.
You got to have that. So what I'm talking about is in essentially every car out there, you have a jack that comes with the car that you use in emergencies to jack the car up to essentially change a tire. You can use it for a lot of different things, but that's generally when you're using it. And for many, many years, I used that same jack to work on my car.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
In your apartment complex, probably.
Apartment complex when I was young, in high school. All
So
those.
did you have a scissor jack or a bottle jack?
It was a scissor jack. I don't think I've ever had a bottle jack. And they're just really
So what's the difference with a floor jack?
a floor.
Compared
So
to one of those.
if you give me a minute, I'm gonna get there. But the so the one that comes with the car is just smaller. I'm not gonna say it's weaker. It's anemic. It's just
Yeah.
not as robust.
Bare
And so,
bones.
right? A floor jack is much bigger. It's much heavier. I would say that it can support a lot more weight. It is a pain to drag it out from underneath my workbench, but once I get it in place, it's much easier to jack the car up. It jacks it up quicker, easier. It's just a way easier experience, nicer experience to use the floor jack.
All right. That was definitely on my list. It was my number 2.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, but you're probably going to say the same thing that
Go
I'm
ahead,
gonna
then.
say.
Go ahead.
Low profile. Was that what you're going to say?
No.
I was going to say if
Good
you're
point.
going to spend the money on a floor jack, get one that is a low profile, because depending upon your car,
If you lowered your Honda Civic and
you
slammed
never
it,
know.
Yeah.
You never know. But I have a lower profile one, and it has come in handy. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Josh.
so what I was going to say, and this is another tool, but I think these have to go together, jack stands.
Oh, well, that was a separate thing. That was on my list too.
But I think those have to go together. Is
Oh,
what I'm saying.
I would agree. And jack stands was the next thing on my list.
Okay. Were you going to say it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go
jack
for
stands, and I'm going to say you need 2 sets, so 4 total
Whoa.
jack stands. Yep.
Whoa.
We aren't playing around here, guys.
No, we're not.
Okay. So when I work on cars and I'm doing significant work, what I'll do is I will jack the car up with the floor jack. I will then put the jack stands, the first set of jack stands, underneath the car. Okay. And before I lower it, I will put, well, maybe, I don't know the order. Anyways, then I'll take the floor jack out of the way, because I got to get where the floor jack is, right? So I got to move
Yep.
the floor jack out of the way to do any kind of work, right? But then I'll put another set of jack stands kind of further back, not actually touching the frame of the car or anything. It's just as a precaution.
Last resort.
And if for whatever reason I don't have that other set of jack stands, I will still use my floor jack. I will move the floor jack to another location that's out of the way, but that will still somehow
My
take weight.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That's
So
a lot of redundant systems.
Yeah, that's smart. It is not dumb.
Right? You don't want to be that guy that.
No, you don't. I think about it every time I'm
And,
under a car. I'm like,
well,
this would be a terrible way to go.
And here's and the reason. So again, we're dealing with all different levels of knowledge here. So jack stands are these little tripod shaped metal stands that will go in under your car to be used instead of your jack. So you should never jack up a car with the floor jack and then immediately crawl under it.
Don't do it.
That
Don't
is-
do what Dave does.
That
Don't do what I do.
especially with the Harbor Freight.
Hey now,
Not
hey
hate
now.
on Harbor Freight, but any jack could fail. It's just hydraulic pressure.
Yes.
It could fail at any moment. So never get under a car that's supported by only the floor jack. Always put those jack stands under it and support the car with them, and then remove the floor jack. Tim's saying he goes a step further with a second set of stands in place, not necessarily even touching the car, but to kind of catch the car if the worst case scenario happened.
Another pro tip: whenever you have the weight of the car on the jack stands, get out from underneath the car and shake the car. Now, I'm saying take your full weight, the full weight, as hard as you can push that car. Shake it back and forth. If it doesn't move, you're good. If you got any sort of movement, do not get underneath that car.
Yep. This happens. We hear stories about it every year or so, at least. Someone crushed by their own car in their own driveway. Terrible way to go. So next one I'm going to have. This is kind of from left field, but I liked it when I thought of it. Is a work light.
Yes.
So they have a lot of LED work lights now. They're super portable. You can take them anywhere. They're battery powered. I remember my dad dragging out his work light that was on an extension cord that was with an incandescent bulb on it. And if you bump that thing, the bulb goes out.
You just described my light.
and you just
And you burn yourself.
They
up.
get really
it's
hot. They get
super
so hot.
Yeah. So work light. A lot of times, hey, nights and weekends, you're having to do your own work on your car. So that work light comes in handy. And even in the daylight when you're getting down
Yep.
into the engine bay, definite time saver.
All right.
I totally agree. I like the one that you can also hang in the engine bay, right? So those are nice to have. Okay, is it my turn?
Your turn.
Hey, my turn. So number 2 on my list is a torque wrench. Got to have a torque wrench.
Torque wrench is on my list.
I'm going to veto that.
I 100% believe that, Tim, because you seem like the kind of guy that would be like, you just, tying it down till it feels good.
Okay, I have a torque wrench and I definitely use it. But if we're talking starter toolkit, you don't need the torque wrench.
I think a torque wrench is needed.
Torque wrench is day 2. Okay, not unless it's like something very particular you're working on. But I feel like the average guy first getting started probably doesn't need the
There's
torque
at least
wrench.
one guy at this table that doesn't own a torque wrench.
Well, that's okay.
So Yeah, I'm
You
gonna
can borrow
agree with
mine whenever
Tim.
you want.
It's at the bottom of my list. It was kind of like an ad at the last minute. This is kind of Car Tools 101. The torque wrench is probably 102 class.
I disagree. I put it higher on my list because I had more faith in you guys that y'all were going to steal mine.
I think
and so
it's
wanted
the
to say
engineer
so.
in you.
It is the engineer in me. It's not like me to just stick my finger in the air and hope for the best. So when you're changing your spark plugs on your car,
Sure.
I want to make sure that I'm not over tightening those. I mean, if I strip something out down there, it's going to be a real pain in the neck.
You just got to have the feel, Dave. The feel.
Oh, I got
right?
the feel. I got the feel. But I think a torque wrench is important to have.
Okay.
All right, is it my turn?
Go for it.
Okay. Mine is directly related to socket set or ratchet set. Universal joint socket adapter set. Okay. What I commonly refer to as swivel joints.
Okay.
That's just what I call it.
Yep.
Again, it's going to be difficult to explain this, but it's allowing you to use your sockets at crazy angles, not just straight on. So there's so many applications where you can't get at a bolt at just a regular 90 degree.
Yep. You can't get your hand and the wrench down in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got to have these swivel joints that are, it's a U-joint is what it is. And so you have to have that if you're doing any kind of car work because you got to get in those tight spaces. I will put all these tools that I'm mentioning, we'll put on the show notes. If you have any question about what that is, I'll have it there.
All right. I like that one. I'm going to go next with a good lug wrench. So
That was actually number one on my list.
okay. So this is related to changing your tire. This is the wrench that takes your lugs off. I use a 4-sided. I guess it has 4 different sizes.
4-way.
So it's like a cross lug wrench instead of relying on the one that comes with your car that just looks like a mini crowbar. You get good leverage with the 4-way. Lug wrench, so that's mine. That's my next.
That's a good one.
addition.
So that's another thing that's near the jack in your car that comes with the car, and it's the one that you have is for emergencies only. It's much smaller. It's a lot harder to use. So
Yep.
yeah, a good, large, full-size lug wrench, great thing to have.
4-way lug wrench.
Next on Dave's list, is not really a tool, but I think I've used this almost every time I've worked on a car, is a breaker bar.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was on my list.
So I don't even know. Do they make? Is there like an official breaker bar?
Yeah, I have several,
I've always
but
just used a pipe.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, so what this is I think about it when you're taking your wheel off, your wheel and tire off. If you don't have a torque wrench, okay, and somebody over torqued your lug nuts,
like Jiffy Lube.
yeah, or
Well,
Tim.
you don't use torque wrenches to take stuff off, Dave.
I know you do, but if somebody didn't tighten down your lug nuts with a torque
Whoever
wrench
put
to
it-
the required
Oh,
specification,
okay,
then you're going to
sorry.
be needing a breaker bar to get these, oftentimes to get these lug nuts off. And so what a breaker bar is in my instance, it's a pipe that fits over your wrench and it gives you much more leverage when you're removing a bolt.
It gives your wrench a super long handle.
Yes, a super long handle, much easier to remove bolts.
Yeah, definitely just
Good
get
one.
yourself a pipe. If we're talking starter, don't go out and buy an actual,
Yeah.
really long.
One of your neighbors has some extra like fence post or something that you can buy.
Perfect.
Like me.
Yep.
I
Or
do.
take.
Tim, what do you got? What's next?
I don't know if this is a given, but we didn't ever mention screwdrivers. I mean, you got to have a Phillips head and
It's
a
on my
flathead.
list.
Okay, you got to have that.
Yep.
I know that's a part of just like a basic tool set, but you have to have
You
them.
do have to have
It's on my
it.
list.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't even need to really explain that.
Filter, yeah. Air filter, getting your air filter, taking any hoses off, anything like that.
Yeah.
Hose clamps.
Totally.
Do I get do I
Cool.
get like 2 since mine was just
Go for it.
screwdriver?
Yeah.
Let's live it up.
Okay, I'm gonna say magnetic parts tray.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now I know that that's probably not like a starter kind of thing. It's much more further down on my list.
I think it is a very basic thing that you need to have because it sets you up for success. You know what I'm saying?
Because I'm thinking through somebody first learning to work on their car, right? And one of the most frustrating things, if you're not used to that and you're taking bolts off, you're setting them down, you're going to lose that.
Yeah.
If you're not used to doing that and setting aside those bolts, I don't know if it belongs on the list.
Well,
but
I like that because from the point you mentioned, as when you're starting out, if you start out using one of those, that is a really good habit because I've never used one.
Yep.
And half of my jobs working on cars is looking for stuff and hunting. And I think that's a great place to start. So I approve.
All right.
I'm gonna jump in line because mine kind of dovetails onto that one, and I don't even know what these are called. I just wrote down grabby thingy, and it's one of those. It's like a metal snake.
It's on my list.
It's a telescopic magnet.
Yeah, well, the one that
It's a
I've seen,
magnetic
you
pickup
It has
tool.
so I guess magnetic. They have magnetic.
does it have a claw?
It also has a claw. There's a
Oh,
button on the
claw
end,
one.
and you press the button, and it. So every time I work on a car, because I don't use my magnetic tray, I drop a bolt, and I'm like, well, I can't reach that. So
Because you're like, I'll just set this bolt right here.
yeah,
on the
and
engine.
then I knock it, and it falls down, and so I go get my grabby thingy, and I
Okay.
stick it down in the engine bay where I can't reach, and I press that little button,
Yeah.
the claw comes out and grabs.
Like
How
a
many
little
ti-
spider tool.
How
Yeah.
many times have you guys been working on a car? You drop the bolt and you're like, did it go through? Did it go through?
Oh, every time.
And then you look up underneath the car and it didn't go through. So
Yeah.
then you
How
spend
many
the next 15 minutes looking for it.
Well, how many times have you just been like, I can't find that? So just moving on.
Oh, I've totally done that.
Oh, yeah. I've done that.
I'm just like,
post-show.
you know, it's just going to be sitting somewhere. I don't know where it
Non-essential.
is.
All right, my turn, finally. All right, I'm going with one, again, a little out of left field, but I think it's 100% everyone. I think everyone at this table uses them every time they work on their car. Heavy-duty nitrile gloves.
On my list.
Yeah. So these are gloves they're not your typical latex rubber gloves. These are nitrile gloves, and nitrile means that the rubber's been treated to be oil resistant and other chemical resistant. And you should get ones that are micro textured so you can have some grip and some
Yep.
feel. But man, those are just a huge time saver at the end of a project, especially because you'll spend 5-10 minutes scrubbing your hands of all grease and everything. But if you're wearing gloves the entire time, pretty much spotless when you come out.
To me, those are kind of like, and I've said this to Josh before, but having a box of those gloves is kind of like always having batteries around. It's one of the greatest things about being an adult, in my opinion.
Yes,
When I was
that's a
younger,
great point.
I never had batteries. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I'm always like, does anybody have a double A?
Now we're
Like,
swimming in batteries.
yeah, now I have a lot of batteries at home. It just makes life, whenever the batteries go out, I'm like, I have batteries. So having those gloves,
Yep.
I think you live for years scrubbing your hands of grease and never totally getting it off.
Yep.
And so then, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to wear gloves, and it makes it a lot better.
Yeah, I've got those gloves in multiple places in the house just for various things that come up with children especially.
Yep.
I buy mine exclusively at Harbor Freight Tools.
Obviously.
I get the 9mm, the heavy duty, nice ones. I even have a magnetic holder that goes on my toolbox that the box slides
Wow.
down.
Rich.
Tim, they need to put you on
I know.
the salary over there
They
at Harbor
do, but
Freight.
they
This
won't.
could be the Harbor Freight studio if they play their cards right.
That's right. Okay, so next on my list is an air compressor. And I would say a portable one that you can drag with you.
That's on your starter toolkit?
Yeah.
That's too much.
No, it's not.
Rich.
No, it's not. They're
Too
cheap.
much.
It's $50. Come on.
$50?
Yes. The one that I have is a $50 little 1 gallon.
That pancake one?
The pancake one.
What
pick
are
it
you-
up.
what are you gonna
$100.
do with that,
That's
Dave?
$100.
I'll tell you what I do with it. I check my air pressure and my tires, and it's always within the recommended levels. Look, I follow the rules, Tim, okay? And I keep my air pressure correct in my tires, and I use my little 1 gallon pancake
I'm gonna
air
veto
compressor.
that because you can check your air pressure and get free air. at
No, I'll tell you
QT.
why you cannot do that. Okay, if you have a QT near you, then you can get free air. But at every other gas station, you have to pay
Yeah, I'm
for
not paying
you have to
money.
pay for the air. You never have quarters, and the thing is always broken. It never works.
Well, if you're just going to do something, I'm talking explicitly about cost because air compressor, if you get one, you should get a nice one. But if you're just pumping up tires, I think you should buy like the $20 one that you can buy, probably Harbor Freight.
Get the $50 one.
And pump up your tires with just a tire compressor, one that's designed to only fill up tires. That's my opinion because that's $100.
It's $50. I'm telling you.
Okay, we'll have to sidebar that.
I mean, it depends on if you're getting a Harbor Freight. I mean, my nice, I'm going to say nice. I think it's nice. Air compressor. I mean, it was only $150.
That one's huge,
Yeah.
right? That's really big.
I mean, I don't know. We'll check prices. or
Look,
something.
hey, if you guys
It's
don't,
an
if you
advanced
think that an
tool.
air compressor is a bad idea, all right, then that's on you.
Every tool's a good idea.
My
let's
gosh.
not be.
I don't
ourselves.
consider putting air in your tires to be car work.
You think
I mean,
you
I-
need to be driving around on underinflated
I'm not,
tires?
Look, I'm not.
That's a
I'm not
straw man,
debating. I'm not debating. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
What'd you say?
That's a straw man argument.
Okay.
It wasn't
Yeah.
his argument.
Anyways, moving on. I'm going. Am I going?
Oh, it's getting hot in here, guys.
Okay. I can't believe none of you guys mentioned this. A creeper.
Oh, it's a terrible idea. Why would you want that for a starter toolkit? No, that's on my list.
I don't have one. I don't have
Okay,
it.
It's on my
and
list.
a low profile creeper at that. Okay, so for listeners that are wondering what in the heck a creeper is, it's a thing that you lay on that has wheels, and when you have your car jacked up, you can roll right up underneath it, and it just makes life so much easier. Again, I'm thinking through getting started working on cars. You don't want to be on the ground doing that because it's just going to make you so frustrated. If you can make yourself more comfortable
Yep.
and have the creeper, mine has from Harbor Freight. It's a low profile creeper. It's got little trays on the sides where I
Fancy.
can put my tools and my bolts that I'm taking off.
Nice.
And I think it's worth the investment.
Okay, so that's probably why I don't do a lot of as much car work as I'd like to. Is I don't have a creeper, and so I just like slide a piece of cardboard under there. And slide
I've
around
been
on
there.
that.
I've done
So,
that.
All right, next on my list, we're getting pretty thin here. We might be nearing the end. One of the most basic car repairs that we can do, which we discussed on an earlier podcast, is changing your own oil. And if you're into that, an oil filter wrench.
Yep, it was on my list.
It's a good one.
So very basic wrench. It fits around an oil filter. Very self-explanatory.
If you don't have man paws like I do, then you need a wrench to get up in there and unscrew your oil filter because over time with heat, that thing is on there
Yep.
for real.
Yep. All
So
right.
yeah, it's a good thing to have. Okay, the next thing that you guys can shoot down on my list is a multimeter or a voltmeter.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh man,
You have to be
for real.
You have to be trained to use one of
No,
these.
you don't. You
Yes,
do not have
do.
to be trained to
Yes,
use
you
one.
do.
No. I don't
That's
know what
an
I'm doing.
advanced tool.
I don't know what I'm doing, and I used one 2 weeks ago when I was wiring my wife's SUV for
Trailer
to
lights.
hook up a trailer, and used it then. Came in handy. Is a great thing to have. I've seen a guy use it was a light bulb that had 2 wires coming off of it, and he would stick that onto whatever circuit he was using. If the light comes on, he's good to go.
Okay, I'm gonna look. I've got one. I think it is nice to have that, but if we're talking starter, I don't know. Honorable mention.
What I'm
I'll give
doing,
you
That's
that.
a super advanced.
I'm going to tell you. Oh, listen, I'm going to tell you how I came up with my list. This was my thought process. I don't do a ton of work on cars. These are the tools that I use basically every time I go out there to work on my car. These are the things that are in my
Really?
head. Yeah,
You say things like, and I'm like, really? I mean,
dude. I use my air
don't get
compressor
it.
all the time.
I've had a
All the time.
multimeter for over 10 years. I've never used it.
Man, you guys
on
need to
car
come
work, yeah.
get on my level.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I've used it. Whenever I have an issue like that, though, I just get my friend Brandon to look at it because he knows how to use one of those so well, and I'm just.
I would love to really know how to use one.
I would too.
I may
I've
use
always
it more,
thought that.
but it's really advanced to me, in my opinion.
I bet it's not. Though.
We'll put some honorable
It's
mentions
not.
on it.
Hey,
I'm telling you.
guys, what one man can do, you can do as well.
That's true. Maybe we'll do like a YouTube video, like a tutorial.
All right, I've got one that's so obvious, and I'm really surprised that no one has mentioned it yet. And I meant to mention it earlier. Is a socket extension set.
That should come in your socket set.
Well, you'll probably only get 2.
Yeah, you do.
Right? And
Yep.
there's lots of applications where you need a shorter one or
Okay.
longer. You know, you've got to. I can remember. My wife had a 1997 Ford Contour. I ended up having to put literally almost 4 feet of extensions together
What?
to get to this one bolt on. I think it was the alternator.
That probably wasn't frustrating.
That I
was
feel like should go
ridiculous.
on my segment from last time. You're doing it wrong. 4
You know?
feet? That's a lot.
Look, I tried
Were you
it
supposed to
every
go up from
way I
under the
could.
car?
Well, yeah. I mean, what we had to do was take one of the tires off, the inner fender well thing.
Whenever you have to take a tire off to work on something, that's when I get mad. I feel like this is not the way you need to go about it.
Nobody will be working on cars.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are sealed now. You can't even get to them.
Yeah.
I had to take the tire off to change spark plugs on my 98 Ford Explorer.
I was going to get Volvo.
Yeah. I didn't have to, but it was way easier.
My 92 Explorer, same thing. You had to get that back one. All right. Related, I'm just going to button up this socket series here. We got a bunch of tools involving sockets. Another DIY job, very easy and common, is changing your spark plugs. A spark plug socket. So they make sockets that go on your ratchet that is the size of a spark plug, and
it usually has a little rubber gasket up inside the socket, and what that's doing is to protect the ceramic of the spark plug so you don't break that. And I think that depending on the set that you buy, it might actually come with one of those.
Mine did, but mine was like a mega set, so I wasn't sure if everybody's came with that.
Gotcha.
All right, that's me.
After I guarantee you when I'm listening to this later, I'll be like, why in the world didn't we say this or that? But Dave, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm not.
You're done.
I'm not getting shot down anymore.
I think I'm about done too.
I have one more.
One more?
I'll just throw out there, and it involves changing oil. Back to the oil thing. I said oil wrench earlier, oil filter wrench. Oil pan. Makes life way easier.
Yeah,
certainly does.
It's one of the simplest jobs, so that'll kind of round out.
If you are changing your oil, you got to have one.
Yes, if you are, yes.
Or flushing a radiator.
Yeah.
Yeah, multi-use.
I have a full one at home that's been full for a couple of years.
I have multiple full oil containers because
We've got
do you guys know why? Do you guys know why I'm stockpiling oil? Did I tell you?
Fence.
Yes. So I saw this. I think I saw it on YouTube. Staining a fence or deck or any kind of wood outside with a mixture of diesel and used motor oil.
Well, I've got another couple gallons for you.
I'm going to give it a go. I think I got.
We tried to start a Christmas tree fire that way, but it didn't quite work
I guess
out.
It's a slow burn.
So, all right, are we going to button up this topic here?
Yes, but I did have a couple things to say. I'm thinking again, somebody first starting. And I love Harbor Freight, so I got to give a shout out. So I mentioned a magnetic parts holder tray. You can actually get those for free with any purchase at Harbor Freight. It's one of their standard free coupon things. There's actually a database of Harbor Freight coupons. There's a website. I will link that in the show notes.
Nice.
Never go to Harbor Freight without a coupon. It's just
you can always walk out with something free from Harbor Freight.
You always can,
yep.
For sure. There was something else I think that was free that was on our list, and I can't remember it now. But for sure,
a little work light. I think I've seen. Work lights.
That's what it was. Because you mentioned having an LED work light. If you open the top of my tool chest in my garage, I have seriously 6 of those lights.
I believe it. You've given me a free tape measure that you got at Harbor Freight. I was like, what am I going to do with this junky tape measure?
Whatever.
I don't want this.
Keep it in your car. That's the one you keep in your car.
Yeah, I have a nice tape measure in my car.
Out.
I use those exclusively, so that's just
all
me.
right. Well, I'll add one more thing on the end of this. As you heard, things got a little heated. Dave got in his feelings a little bit.
I feel great.
If you listeners have opinions on what was discussed here, and you need to support Dave or shut me or Tim down,
or tell me I'm a fool.
Yeah, or tell Dave he's wrong like he is. Then let us know on social media and the typical places. Email, send us a voice memo. Any way to contact us, let us know.
But today, go out and buy yourself a 1-gallon pancake air compressor
for $50.
Yeah.
All right. So after the break, this is going to be Tim's week to put on the ending segment. So we'll see what he has to say when we come back. This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, welcome back, guys. Tim, what do you have for us this week?
Okay, Dave. I was inspired.
Oh boy,
I was inspired.
Oh man,
It's
you
happening.
trivia.
Car trivia.
Oh, car trivia.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Dave might have me on this.
I don't know.
Yep. Okay, You Can Man car trivia.
Oh,
if you'll
boy.
remember back, I don't know what episode was that, Dave, that you did the You Can Man trivia.
3 maybe or 2.
It was early on.
It was in our early days.
Many moons.
I feel like
ago.
every time I have to recall an episode, I always say it's episode
It's probably
3.
3. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, let's jump right into it, guys.
Well, we got to go over the rules, right?
Well,
No rules.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
You know what? We're not gonna. We'll kind of loosely keep score. Okay. I don't have the whole bonus round that you did. Look,
Okay.
I didn't do the
If
whole.
it's going to be me against Josh, we're keeping score.
I didn't think this through as much as you did. So,
Okay.
and I only
Let's
have
do
five,
it.
I only have 5 questions.
All
I
right.
think.
Okay.
So,
Let's roll. Let's see what happens.
okay, first one, multiple choice. In what year were disc brakes invented?
Disc brakes. You said multiple choice.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I should give you the. I guess I should give you the
I
choices.
mean, I'm not saying we need it. Let's just do who gets the closest.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you the choices.
Okay.
Okay. Choice 1, 1887. Choice 2, 1902. Choice 3, 1942.
Wow. Just 3.
Josh, what's your answer?
I'll go 42.
I was going to say 42 as well.
Really?
Really?
Yep.
1902.
Yep. That was it. 1902.
That seemed too like right at the advent of the
Oh,
automobile.
I
Right.
can't believe that because, I mean, I can think of multiple cars that I've
you own
driven.
a car. You own a car with.
I owned a car that had, I mean, recently I owned a car that I didn't, but my wife had a car that had drum brakes in the back. So you see a lot of relatively modern cars that have disc up front,
My 4Runner has
drum in the back.
drums in the back.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It's their drum
Your
brakes are
4Runner?
terrible.
I'm pretty sure they do.
They are terrible.
No. Now, if it's a Toyota, it might have a rotor, and it's got this drum that's on the inside of it
Yeah, I can
for the
tell you.
parking brake.
Just forget I talked
Well,
about
so what I'm saying is, I mean, as recent as the 90s, you had your Explorer had drum brakes in the back, and so that was what, a 92.
Yep.
And if they were invented in 1902, how have we gone this long? We're still using
It has
drum brakes?
everything to do with the cost
Yeah,
of doing it. They're cheaper,
so much cheaper.
and easier.
And you really the front ones are the ones that are doing
Yep.
most of the work. So.
yeah,
That's true.
So they were the development of the disc brake actually began in like the 1890s, but it wasn't until 1902 that this Lanchester Motor Company designed the brakes that looked and operated basically what we think of as disc brakes today. But it was like cable driven and anyways.
Okay, so 0-0.
So it wasn't widely used until like 60 years after that, right?
right,
So it wasn't
gotcha.
until the 50s that it was actually started being used. Okay, question 2. What does the PCV in PCV valve stand for? Dave.
What is the PCV?
Yeah.
Oh man,
PCV valve. It's not the PVC valve, okay? PCV.
is it the
valve.
PCV valve or the PC valve?
No, it's what did I say?
PC
Pressure could so a lot of people. Never mind. Pressure control variable valve.
Pressure control variable valve. Incorrect.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm,
Really?
Yeah, pressure control.
Come on,
is
guys.
not part of it.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the emission control system.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't know. If you had asked us the EGR valve, I could have told you that. I don't know the PCV.
It's kind
valve.
of along those lines.
I don't know.
No? Positive crankcase ventilation.
Okay, I've heard that before, but yeah.
First of all, that was not a good hint. Okay, and second of all, never would have
How
got
is
it.
that not a good hint? Yeah, because okay, so It's part of
I don't
the
believe in emissions regulations.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's like I said, it's an emissions thing. It's part of the crankcase ventilation system, and it's a one-way pressure-sensitive passage which allows the natural buildup of gases to escape from the crankcase in a controlled manner.
wow.
Never had to change that one.
I'm sure.
Well, you should have.
It probably lowers your horsepower.
The
probably
PCV
does.
system became the first real vehicle emissions control device. So, and it was
Oh, okay.
started being installed on cars in the 1960s.
Interesting. So after disc brakes.
Yeah. PCV, now you guys know. Positive.
I can feel the
Crankcase-
listeners yelling at us.
Positive crankcase ventilation.
I can feel my cousin's husband yelling at me, Scott, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, so a way to test that, I don't know. Surely they're all kind of like this. If you take the part and it doesn't rattle, you got a problem because it's basically got this one-way check ball kind of thing in
Yeah.
it, right?
The ball's stuck.
Yeah, and so it's gunked up. So there you go.
All right.
All right, question 3. All right, guys, if you guys don't get this,
0-0.
I'm going to be
We're
hurt.
doing pretty well.
I'm going to be hurt. Okay. What was the first model year for the Ford Bronco?
Ooh.
Come on,
You're gonna be
guys.
hurt.
Come on.
Okay.
I'm going to
I
say.
think I know. 1969.
I was going to say 63.
Both incorrect. Guys,
okay.
come on. 1966.
Right in the middle.
The classic Ford Bronco was manufactured from 1966. Now I'm talking model years. Of course, they started building them in
Sure.
65. 1966 through 1977. Listeners may remember me saying that I have a 1975 Ford Bronco, so that's near and dear to my heart. In 1966, they sold 23,776. Guess how many they sold in 1975? This was interesting. My model year.
Okay.
Keep in mind, 66, when it first came out, over 23,000.
Yeah.
1975 was the lowest production year with only a little over 13,000 sold.
Wow.
That's interesting.
They didn't
Crazy.
know what they had.
It's kind of interesting how every generation, I would think in most people's opinion, they got worse as the 3 generations went on, right? So the first generation, best one. Second
Bronco
generation,
specific.
I would say when it's done right, the second generation is an extremely close second. And then I own a 3rd gen Bronco, and it is, in my opinion, way far in the rear. Okay, the worst one. And then the 4th gen that's about to come out is going to be worse than all of those. So
Yeah.
we'll see what
We'll
happens
see.
with that.
We're gonna have a nice discussion.
We are. When that one comes out, you know what? I feel like we should do a podcast solely dedicated to the Bronco.
I think it deserves
when they
that.
release. I agree. Totally
so
agree.
it could be this summer. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
We know the Corvette's coming out this summer.
Yeah, 2021, right? Is it? That's the year it's supposed to be released, no?
I thought it was
Believes-
2020.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we are
Bronco
eagerly...
fans, let us know.
Well, no, they can't let it. Look, I follow the Bronco forums and the Facebook groups and stuff. And every other week, some dude's like,
Yep.
"Hey, look, new
They
Bronco,"
released
and
it.
everybody's like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool."
Now the internet's
No.
just littered with April Fools.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the
articles.
problem is now, I think it's kind of like when the NSX came out, the new one. There's been so much hype and it's been talked about for so long that I don't know that they can live up to it. But
Yeah.
whatever, we'll see.
Ford, don't mess this one up. Okay, guys, moving on. I really hope you guys get this one. I feel.
Well,
like,
I'm
I feel like
guessing
you
that we're
might.
not going to, Tim.
I feel like you might.
We're
Okay.
trending in the wrong direction.
What does
Is this number 4 or 5?
4?
Okay.
What does each one of the numbers in an oil's grade refer to? For example, this is what I mean by this. The 10W in 10W30.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so, and then the bonus if you know what the W actually stands for.
I think we
So-
know this.
One of them's the weight of the oil.
Incorrect.
Oh,
Well,
the viscosity,
Yeah,
right?
one's
So
viscosity,
the thickness of the oil.
okay, that's almost incorrect as well. But and it's
Almost
on a
incorrect.
it's on a technicality. You want to take another stab?
No.
You want to take a stab?
Those were my two answers. Weight
Okay.
and viscosity.
So yes and no that it does have to do with the viscosity, but it's a viscosity grade. So like that number doesn't directly correlate to its viscosity.
Okay, but it
You know
does
what I mean?
indicate the viscosity, the relative viscosity of the oil.
But but the two sets of numbers. So the first, this is a multi-grade oil. Okay, so 10W30. The W is for winter because that first number is the viscosity grade of that oil in low temperatures, and the other one is at high temperatures.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Now you do.
Interesting. Good. We're learning things on trivia.
Yeah. So again, first number is its low temperature viscosity grade, and the second is the high temperature viscosity grade. The W stands for winter.
Wow.
Yeah. I always kind of thought it was.
What are the
something
temperatures,
weight.
Tim?
You know, I don't know if I have that.
Interesting, Alex Trebek.
I can put that on the show notes.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Let's see. Actually, I do. Yeah. Let me just read this. Okay. So this is talking about like a 10W40. 10W40, the 40 in that simply means that the oil must fall within a certain viscosity limits at 100 degrees Celsius. So boiling point, right? 212 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a fixed limit, and all oils that end in 40 must achieve these limits. Once again, the lower the number, the thinner the oil. For example, a 30, well, once again, like I said that before, I didn't say that. I'm just reading off my list. Sorry, guys. I had copied this quote. So the thinner the oil, so like a 30 oil is thinner than a 40 at 100 degrees Celsius. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Moving on. I guess this is my last question.
It's the last one.
Okay, this is a good one. You guys got to get this one.
You need to stop saying
You've
that.
said that 4 times.
All right, last question. What is the purpose of bleeding the brakes?
Dave.
Okay.
Bleeding your
Everybody
brakes.
knows this.
Right. So you want to get the air bubbles out of the system, out of the line. Because
I agree.
If you don't, then that spells bad times on the road, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, when you get air in your brake lines, temperature changes can cause water to condense in that air. So then you have water in your brakes, and your brakes do bad things.
You might have some
and
pulsing in your brake pedal.
Poorly.
So whenever I change my brakes after I do it and I get back in, I realize this isn't the bleeding part, but it just kind of came to my mind. Every time I get back in and I pump the pedal, like you do it once and it goes to the floor, and I don't know, my heart stops every time, and I'm like, is it going to come back? You know what I mean? Like you hit it, and it's like
that's a power.
I know
brake.
it is. I know it is. But every time I do that, I'm like, ooh.
You are loosening the cap to your brake reservoir when you change your pads, right?
Got to.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was it.
Man, those were hard questions.
Really?
Or we're really bad at cars.
Yeah, I think we're really bad at cars.
I do too.
I did want to briefly. So the most common way to bleed your brakes, if you're getting started, you're going to do the pump and hold method, which usually requires 2 people. I'm not going to go into the exact details on that.
It's pretty complicated.
Yeah, but you can use like a vacuum. I mean, there's multiple different ways of bleeding your brakes. But now, if you've ever heard somebody mention something about bleeding the brakes and you have no idea what that is, that's what it is. So you're
the air out of the
forcing.
system.
And really, the only time you're having to do this is if you're changing out calipers. Anytime you're breaking basically the seal, if you will, on the brake system.
Anytime you're introducing air into your
Exactly.
system.
So if you're just changing brake pads, you don't have to do that. But if you're changing out the caliper, then you're going to have to bleed the brakes.
Yep. All right.
All right, that'll do it.
Good segment.
All right, so Dave, though, bring the trivia again.
Absolutely.
Whenever it's your
It's
turn.
coming back.
All right, I guess that's going to wrap us up. I did want to say, look, guys, if you guys have any kind of ideas for us that you want us to talk about on air, show topics, hey, hit us up. Hit us up on our Instagram or our Facebook page, or you can contact us on our website. So just let us know. If you have any ideas of topics that you want to have us tackle, let us know. And if you have any questions, we're going to be doing an ongoing series of Ask Us Anything. So maybe every 4 or 5 episodes we'll do that like we did last episode. So just want to encourage everybody to reach out and let us know. As always, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and check out our show notes at youcanman.com. Till next time.